Welcome to Real Estate Podcast number 14 with Robert Ikard. This is February 22, 2023, and I have a special guest today whose name is Murray Beaulieu. And Murray is also known as the Debt Buster. And he helps people eliminate debts in as little to 5 to 7 years without changing their lifestyle or budget. And let me tell you a little about Murray's history. He's the founder and owner of Boosted Profits, which is debt elimination, merging ecosystems with real estate professionals, leveraging LinkedIn, his own networks, and corporate experience. Murray's career history is he has a finance degree from Notre Dame and was a freshman at the game Rudy played in from the movie. Less than 15 years later, he was in the stands at another game when they finished the game scenes at the end of Rudy. He has 5 years in logistics management as an officer of the U.S. Army. He's a Cold War veteran, 3 years of duty in West Germany, 20 miles from the border with then communist East Germany. He has 34 years operations and financial management as an executive at multiple Fortune 500 electronics companies, Raytheon, Texas Instruments, Analog Devices. And at Raytheon, he managed a part of the Patriot missile line during the first Gulf War. In that role at Analog Devices, which is a $5 billion semiconductor company, he was responsible for the cost of goods sold and the P&L for multiple lines of business, multiple billions of dollars of lines of business. He accepted an early retirement offer from the last corporation over 3 years ago and loves being an entrepreneur because he feels like he can have more impact and he loves to help people. And he uses his experience as well as his finance degree. I don't think I read about your MBA. You have an MBA as well, right, Murray?
I have an MBA, yep.
Okay.
Southern New Hampshire University, yep.
Okay, so that's, and then his interests are family, wife, being a Notre Dame grad, 2 adult kids, 3 adopted dogs, currently all living together during the pandemic, and that's been a blessing. He likes travel, food, photography, and other activities, and all Notre Dame sports. And we'll ask you to read your contact information again at the end, but I have Murray at boostedprofits.com. And your phone number is 603-320-1480.
Yep.
And the spelling of your name is Murray, Murray, Beaulieu. And what Murray's likes to help people with is financial planning. And he's known as the Debt Buster. And one reason for that is that Murray helps people analyze debt and deal with debt, as well as deal with their overall finances and financial situation. I spoke with Murray last week, actually 2 weeks ago, I think. And he has a program that he uses and he helps people use, and he has that available to people as well. And what the program does and what Murray helps them do in setting up the program is, I'm going to speak a little bit about it, and then I'm going to let Murray speak because he's really the expert. This is a podcast about Murray, not me. But what I found out about the podcast, the program that he uses is you enter in your information, and I'm going to sum it up in the most summed up way possible, which is not good, but Murray's here to elaborate. You enter in your financial information, and it will use its computer brains, or your computer's brain, and its software to produce a result for you that will help you eliminate debt and also manage your life and your finances better. But Murray, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and welcome to the podcast tonight.
Awesome. Great to be here, Robert. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very honored. Robert's just a guy that you just kind of, he's like a magnet, you just immediately get a liking for him. So great to be here. I just want to, before we start, I just want to say that I I hope that not only anybody with debt is listening to this, but I'm also hoping that professionals that are in the real estate industry are, keep an open ear here. Because imagine if you are as a real estate professional, and whether you're an agent, a realtor, a broker, or in the mortgage business, and you could say to somebody, you could really become their trusted advisor. Okay. That's what they really want from you. And I know this because my son, who's 28, is looking to buy his first home. And so I'm going through this whole as a family, our whole team is kind of made this a project, and it's very exhilarating, and it's fast paced. It's a lot different than when bought a home, and probably the same. I don't know about you, Robert, but I bought a home in the 90s, and it was much slower pace. Anyway, he's lucky he found a good real estate professional and who has become a trusted advisor. And so I'd like you to, it's made a massive difference in how we're, the success we're having finding him a home in a very competitive market, particularly for a first-time buyer. So anybody
What
who's in
part
the
of the
real estate,
country, I don't mean to
oh,
interrupt. What part of the country is he looking for a home in? Or is he?
New Hampshire. I live in New Hampshire. He's looking, southern New Hampshire. Okay,
Oh,
so
great, great.
anywhere within like 30 miles of Massachusetts. Not that he wants to go to, it's just where we are.
Right.
And so anyway, I would urge people who are in the real estate industry to keep an open mind here, because this could be a game changer. So I think it's best to lead with a story, right? So as Robert said, I've been around the block a few times, and I worked with a lot of high tech manufacturing companies, and high tech, you have to stay ahead of the game. It's really fast, and we had cutting edge systems to manage the cost. That my job in finance was to manage the finances of a factory. So we're talking about millions of dollars of equipment, hundreds of millions of dollars of equipment, labor, materials, vendors. When you look at a profit and loss statement, aka a P&L, right? When any company is reporting, the top line we all know is revenue. So I had no control over that. But the next line, and when you're making stuff, is cost of goods sold, right? And so the difference between revenue and cost of goods sold is margin, aka profit. So I had no control over the top, but I did have influence over this number. So my goal was to educate everybody in the factory, in the company, how we could reduce that, create systems where we could manage it and track it, provide feedback loops, training, blah, 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 right? So my goal was to save money, essentially, right? And the more I could save, the more impact I had on the bottom line. Now, it wasn't just me. I was just the guy with the big mouth. I had really smart people working for me, luckily. But we saved millions of dollars. And I'm not trying to brag here. It's the point for me telling you this. I didn't know how mortgages worked. Personal finance and industrial finance are completely different. So although I guess there's a couple things that are common, but the reality is it's completely different. So I had refinanced the house I'm living in now twice. And I didn't understand, the main reason I refinanced. Why do you think, Robert? What's the main reason anybody refinances? Oh, we lost your voice.
I was just sorry. I'm just need to close my door. The cleaning crew just arrived, and I'll be right back.
Okay, all right.
Unexpected there. Sorry.
It's all right. So why do you think people refinance?
We'll edit that out.
Okay.
Go ahead and ask me again.
So I refinanced this house 2 times. Now, what do you think? What's the main reason in your experience that people refinance?
Lower their payment.
Lower 100%. And the reason I wanted to lower my payment so I could get more cash flow every month.
Right.
That's what I did twice. Now, unfortunately, I didn't look at the other moving pieces, right? And so as a result, I don't know if I would have, looking back, I don't know if I made the smartest move, but Both times I refinanced, I was, younger and I was looking to get more cash flow. Now, when I took this early retirement 3 years ago, now I'm looking at the mortgage from a different angle. So now my question is not what are my payments, but when am I going to pay this thing off? And I was horrified to learn that I wasn't going to be, if I just follow the normal amortization schedule, I wasn't going to pay this off until I'm 80, which it was a massive blow. I actually got physically ill. I lost sleep. I'm the finance guy, and it was a hard discussion to have with my wife. I just really never put that together. I just didn't look at the NP. So um, there's a reason I'm telling that story is because I think there's a lot of people who don't really know how mortgages work. And they think that the interest rate on a mortgage is what they're paying. So I learned a lot real quick in 3 years, and I am very grateful that I came across this program, which first of all, I just want to clarify something a little bit, Robert. I'm not a financial advisor per se. I don't have a license or anything like that, but I can show you how to, eliminate all your debt and, do some great financial planning. So I'm not technically a licensed financial advisor, just to be clear. So there's no confusion. But this program acts like a financial GPS. Okay, just like I don't know anybody nowadays that would go anywhere that they have never been without using a GPS. It's going to tell them exactly how to get there, how long it's going to take, and when they're going to arrive. And that's exactly what our program does. Only your destination is debt-free. And so it will take all your finances, all your expenses and debt and your income, and it will tell you where to move your money, just like a GPS tells you where to turn your car. So I became a client of this program. It's won several awards. This is not Dave Ramsey. This is software with coaching and training. And I learned how debt really works. And I think it's important, whether you get this program or not, it's important you understand how debt works. And part of my mission tonight is to just do a little bit of education on that. But I will say that I'm going to save $110,000 of interest that I normally would have paid if I just followed the bank plan without changing my budget or lifestyle. So it's pretty incredible. And I was so moved by this that I wanted to share it with as many people as I know, including not just everybody who has a debt, but I really would like to partner with real estate professionals, I can show them how to help their client, how to educate and help their clients, not only to help their clients, but to help themselves to get more referrals and become the trusted advisor that their clients are looking to be. So that's the intro.
That's great. And I was just wanting to ask you that debt is a thing that almost everybody has, or most people, but a lot of people don't give a lot of thought about it. It's not exactly something that a lot of people want to it's not like fun things to talk about at a party.
Yes. You don't have hey, let's talk about that, no, you're right.
Right. Or even think about it. I mean, a lot of people don't even want to think about it. They do what they do, and then they do their job, and then they pay off the mortgage. And many people don't drill down. We don't drill down about a lot of things in our life. I mean, you could say that about insurance policies, estate plans. There's just a lot of different things that people don't look deeply into enough. As a former attorney, I would see the problems with lack of planning sometimes, especially, as I was doing estate planning, and people had to go through intestate succession because they didn't plan. But and it doesn't, I'm not trying to look down on anybody for not planning, but it's hard to plan about and to think about. And like I say, it's not a lot of fun to think about debt. Isn't that right?
Right. No, I'm with you. That was me. You just described me up 3 years ago, yeah, 100%. It's like talking about, disease or crime, it's like no one wants to talk about this stuff, and, the number one complaint I get when I tell people stuff like this is, and by the way, I'm not the expert, but I'd like to share what I do know, but why don't we learn this stuff in school, and I don't know the answer to that. I will say that I don't know if the teachers actually know this stuff either, but and there's on one side, there's some conspiracy theorists that want to say that, hey, banks want to keep us ignorant so they can, not just banks, but financial institutions and politicians, blah, 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 want to keep us in the dark. Yeah, it's not a fun topic. It's not something that you hear about much. It's even hard to talk with your spouse. And
Yeah,
right. And as we know, it's the number one cause, financial stress is the number one cause for divorce. And so this is pretty funny, Robert. I actually feel I have, unintentionally become a marriage counselor when I do all my work on Zoom, and
right.
yeah, you get both, when you have a married couple, you get them both. I want to see their face.
Right.
Here's my favorite story. I got to tell you this story, Robert. So my favorite, the instant I knew that I was doing what I wanted to do for a living. So I had this one client and his wife, and I met him on LinkedIn, and we ran their analysis, right? And we guarantee what we're gonna save them. And um, this guy had two mortgages. He had 9 credit cards. 7 of them were maxed out. He had 4 car loans. He had 3 student debts
Whoa.
and about 5 other, pretty big personal loans, like for doing all the windows of his house. And they were just, and
Wow.
you could see on the body language, right? On the Zoom. It's one thing I like about Zoom, is that you can get the emotions, the body language, and you could just see
Right.
that they look crushed. They look like almost like The Walking Dead. And we ran their analysis, and I said, look, we're going to be able to pay off based on what I have here without changing your budget. If you use this program, you're going to be debt free in 5.3 years. This guy was like 50, and he had 2 daughters. And immediately when I said that, you could just see the wife. It's like instantaneously she went, like all the stress just melted away, and the husband had to turn away because he started tearing up. And that instant has been the most professionally rewarding instant of my. I can remember it like it was yesterday. So we
Well,
get a lot of marital issues resolved when they use our program because they become accountable. There's full transparency of what's going on. It's like a cash flow management tool. And if you
and
follow the steps, you'll be out of debt guaranteed. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, that's a great story. And also, now you mentioned a lot of different debt items. So your platform is able to handle all those different, multiple items. Is that correct?
That's right. We talk about mortgages the most because mortgages are usually somebody's biggest debt, and they're also the most onerous. Is that the right word? The interest you pay
That's a good
is
word.
is large. Okay, is it's not just a big debt. It's a lot of interest. But every debt. Here's something I learned. Okay, in the last 3 years, and I never put this together, so I'm going to share it. If one person learns from this, I'll feel like this podcast was a success. Every debt has an interest rate and terms, right? But the math, the formula of the payments you make, which includes interest, is completely different for each type of debt. Example, mortgage calculation, it's called the closed-end amortized loan. You don't have to know that. It doesn't really mean anything, but just the math is unique. It's completely different than a credit card payment, which is completely different than student debt, which is completely different than a car loan, which is completely different than a line of credit. Those are all 5 types of debt. You can't compare a 3% mortgage with a 3% credit card if there was one, a 3% line of credit, a 3% car loan. The math is different. If you had the same amount and the same interest rate, the payments would be different on all 5 of those. And it behooves you to understand the math, at least at a high level, so you can make better decisions. That's the whole point here. Is this program helps you make better decisions, so you can cancel out debt as fast as possible. But even if you don't have the program, you need to understand that. Can I give you an example? You okay if I give you an example?
Yes.
So I wish I had a nickel for everybody who's told me, look, why would I pay off a 3% mortgage when I can make 10% in the stock market, or which they can't, but let's even say 8%. I mean, 8% is more than 3%, so I'm going to invest in the stock market. Well, For one thing, the stock market is volatile and you're not counting the taxes that you have to pay. But disregarding that, you're not paying 3% on a mortgage. What I encourage everybody who's listening to this, if you have a mortgage, which is most of us, and nothing against mortgages because they help us get homes, but you got to know how they work, or so you can make better decisions, right? Go look at your amortization schedule, which I never did. They give it to you when you close, but it's stuffed into a pile of like 8 inches of papers that you're signing in 30 minutes. No one has a chance to read all that. And even if you could read it, what could you do? But the amortization schedule tells you every payment you're going to make, and of that payment, which is principal and which is interest. And if you do the math, let's say a 3% mortgage, which is no longer in the cards now, but if you do the math, the first payment you make on a 3% mortgage is actually 60% of that money is interest, not 3. And if you pay the whole 30 years off, according to their schedule, by how much interest they want you to pay, you're actually paying somewhere in the neighborhood of 46%, not 3%. And how they get away with calling it a 3% mortgage, I mean, it is involved in the math of how it's calculating the payments, but it's not, that math does not correlate in most people's heads, including mine. I'm a finance guy. And so it's completely different. Obviously a lower interest rate is better than a higher interest rate when you're paying debt. But the math is not, you're not paying what you think you're paying. And so if you're really paying 60% interest on a mortgage, it makes a hell of a lot more sense to start at least considering paying off the mortgage before investing extra money in an 8% potential return in the stock market. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it's a very good point you made. It sounds like a 3% loan, or let's say 7% now, whatever they are now. I think it's 7% the last I checked, but it's really not. It's really a lot more. Is like you say, when you look at your overall, and I think that's why they passed the Truth in Lending Act to try to provide a little more transparency to some of these financial instruments, just so people had a little bit more idea what they're spending, and that was a real eye opener for a lot of people.
100%. That's exactly why they came up with that. And that's one of the forms they get when you're closing. It says, I wish I had a couple of examples I could share a screenshot, but it says if you pay off this full loan, you're going to be actually paying. I can tell you that if your mortgage is over 5.5%, which it is now, and you ended up paying off that whole mortgage according to their schedule, the actual interest you're paying is over 100% of, so in other words, you'd be paying more interest than you would the loan you actually borrowed from over time. Can I tell you another story? You like stories?
Yes.
All right. So in the 60s or 70s, this is like 80% accurate, so don't quote me, but the gist of the story is correct. The formula for mortgages wasn't like it is now, but banks did a lot of research and they figured out that the average 30-year mortgage only lasted 5 to 7 years. Why? Because somebody would either move or they'd refinance. So very few people would pay off the whole 30 years. So they got clever and somebody came up with this amortized closed-end loan. They didn't always exist, okay? It came about in the 60s or 70s or something like that. So now you're paying a lot more interest than you think. And not only that, if that wasn't bad enough, more of it is at the beginning, right? I know you know
Right.
that, but the very first payments are heavily skewed toward interest. And they get gradually better, but very slowly. When do you pay off? When do you pay the most interest? In the first 5 to 7 years. Isn't that a coincidence?
And the most principal as in the very end.
In the very end. And they know that people are going to refinance or move, and so banks aren't really interested in the interest rate. They're interested in what we call the total interest percentage, or the interest volume, which is the actual amount you're paying. and that's how much money
Right.
they make. So they don't care if you refinance because the clock starts all over again,
Right.
and you're in that high interest zone again, even if you're getting a lower interest rate. So
Well, it's a financial risk calculation, and the risk to them is lower with a mortgage that's constructed in this way,
mhm,
especially because they're calculating in the average amount of time that people actually hold that mortgage
that's right.
before they roll it into another one. And then so what happens is they're you're on the other side of that equation as the consumer.
Yeah.
You're on the complete other side. So they're the ones with the um, analysts who've really analyzed it, like you said, in the 70s and really came up with this. And the average person out there is um, just saying, okay, what's the rate on this loan? Oh, that sounds great.
Mm.
Um, and but you, like you say, they're not calculating that. And let's talk about rates. I mean, they've really affected. I mean, this is a real estate podcast, and we do talk about things like finances, of course. This is all integral to real estate. And the thing is, rates, what I'm not sure what they are right now. I hesitate during a podcast to get online and search things, but I think it's 7%, let's just say.
Okay.
More or less.
Close enough. Yep.
So those are 30-year rates. That's really having effects on the real estate industry, on housing especially. But commercial loans and everything else, it's freezing up a lot of movement. And so what's going on is this thing you have, after talking to you, I realized that it's not a gimmick, because I wouldn't have you on the show if it was a gimmick. It's really is, you're sitting down and this program, the people that put it together have really thought about how these loans work and how to use that and use your financial planning. And I'll let you go into that more.
Okay.
Into taking these loans, but also making all the loans you have more advantageous and
Yes.
less onerous. I'll use your word,
Okay.
towards the consumer.
Yeah. So thank you. That's a good. Your perspectives are fresh and welcome there. I mean, we all have to borrow money, and it's great that we have an economy. At the end of the day, the economy needs credit and flow and all that. So I don't want to take too much away, but it behooves. It's just, you just got to know. Here's a news flash: banks do not have your best interest in mind, and so they are really good at making money from money. Really good. That's their job, and they're really good at it. In fact, if you drive through any town or city, maybe we should go with city, usually the tallest buildings in each city have the name of a bank on it. I don't know if you ever noticed that. And that's not a coincidence. Even though there's a lot of online banking capability nowadays, they still have these big buildings, right? So there are many banking principles of math going on all the time. They are experts. They are squeezing money out of everything they have, right? And let me give you another example. This is something we all kind of know, but we didn't think of it this way. When you have a credit, a checking account, Robert?
Yes.
How much interest do they pay you for that? What does the bank pay you to keep money in a checking account?
I think they charge me. I'm not sure.
They charge you, right, but not much. It's not much. So they take the money you have in your checking account and they loan it out to somebody else at 6% for a car loan, whatever for a credit card, whatever for a mortgage, and they're paying you nothing. That's called interest rate arbitrage, right? They're making money off your money. Not only that, but there's another thing called fractional reserve banking. They can do that 10 times. So they're good, and they're very good at timing. They're making money off hours of interest, and they're sweeping money around so that it's making money or canceling out interest is, mathematically in their favor all the time. It's a massive system, and that's what they do, and you got to give them credit. They really know how to do that, So our program uses the same principles banks use, okay, in the background. It understands all the math on the different types of debt, which I just kind of described.
Right.
They all have pros and cons. We'll talk about them in just a second. But it's using banking principles to take, and it only uses the what we call positive discretionary income. In other words, it only uses money you have left over at the end of the month, so you don't have to change your budget. And that number is going to fluctuate, so it will adjust for that. But it's using money and it's using your available money that wasn't targeted anywhere, and it's canceling out interest as fast as mathematically possible using banking principles, so that you can be debt free as fast as possible. It's really good when you have more than one kind of debt. It'll figure out on your behalf which one to go after first to get to being debt free. It may not be the highest interest rate. It may not be the one with the biggest payment. It's going to be the one that's going to get you debt free first. So you could have multiple things going on. So we talked about mortgages a lot. We know credit cards have their own challenges. The math, if you pay the minimum payment on a credit card bill, the way the math works, you'll never pay it off. It's like 1% of the balance plus 25% interest, ridiculous. The only good thing about credit cards is you can get back by paying your whole bill off every month, and you get 30 days free of money, which is a great deal. Highly recommend everybody do that if you're not already doing that. But if you pay the minimum payment, you're never going to pay that off. And the payment is designed to do that, to keep you in debt. So that's the bad thing about credit cards. Then student debt, I don't even want to talk about how criminal may be harsh, but I mean, they're putting students in the hole before they even were born. They're getting out of and if that wasn't bad enough, it affects their credit. They can't borrow money to get a home because they got bad credit because of the debt to income ratios that are getting skewed by their student debt. So that has its own problems. Like a car loan, is more straightforward than the other three I just mentioned. So what you're getting anyway.
Will your program handle student debt as well?
It handles student debt. Student debt is real complex because there's so many customized nuances with it. So there's not like a one size fits all. Some of them are some student loans are government and some student loans are private. Right. And the payback mechanisms are different and the rules and all that. And but yes, to answer your question, we can pay off student debt too. And it's really gratifying because, I really feel for, young people that are just buried in student debt before they even got off the ground, And we all know college costs are pretty high.
Well, and then with interest rates going up and then inflation right now, I just see a lot of value to what you have to offer to people, because it's hard to figure all this out without a computer program.
It is
a sophisticated program like you have, and it would be probably almost impossible for the average person to figure that out.
It's challenging because your life is dynamic. You never have the same. Budgets are tough because most people fail with budgets because the first month they have implement a budget, something changed. It's hard to maintain the dynamic nature of life and finances and and inflation. You nail. I didn't even talk about that yet. Yeah, that's throwing a whole curveball at us here. So it really is hard. And the thing about when you eliminate debt is once you eliminate debt, you can start to build wealth.
Well, yes, that's true. Go ahead.
Right. And
that's a good stop point.
Once you and building wealth, I highly recommend people look at real estate as one option, right? That's one of the yes. But there's a lot of different ways you can build wealth. But where was I going with that? So when you are in debt, the bank or whoever you owe money to controls your money, really. That money is prisoner of debt, I like to say. And once you pay that off, you get control of your money again. I mean, this is kind of, theoretical here, but the ability to control your own money is a massive mental, psychological uptick. It's a stress eliminator, and when you get control of your own money, and then you control your own destiny. And if you're struggling with debt and you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's not fun. So the ability to get out of debt, you can start to build wealth, take control over your own destiny. There are a lot of options for what you can do with the money once you get out of debt. I'm not going to go into any of that. That's not really what we're here, but real estate, I will say, is on my list.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as you get real estate paid off, I mean, it really opens some doors. Debt-free real estate can be one of the best tools as far as acquiring more real estate. So then you can pay that off, and that can be debt-free. And this is how a lot of people build wealth in real estate. They'll buy some property, they'll pay it off, and they'll have an aggressive payment schedule. And your program can help them implement an aggressive schedule. Isn't that
100%.
correct?
That's
Yes.
very, very good observation. Yes. So my best client, so I'll tell you another story. My best client, or one of my best clients, you can put multiple debts in here, including multiple mortgages. So this guy was actually in the Navy. It's unbelievable. There's a whole ecosystem of active duty military guys that are investing in real estate while they're in the military, so that when they get out of the military, they can, they don't have to work for somebody. They can live off investing, and it's unbelievable. And they're very entrepreneurial. So this one guy went to the Naval Academy, and he was in 20 years. I met him when he was in year 18. And he had 8 properties all over the country that he had mortgages on, and he was renting out. So he had almost like two massive incomes. He had the Navy income, and then he had the real estate income. Pretty impressive. And so he was looking at our program. Before our program, he had the spreadsheet, and he had it calculated that he was going to use the cash flow of those 8 to buy another property every 4 years.
Yep.
And have them paid off, right? And just kind of stack it, like you said. And possibly after the third one of those, start accelerating it, because you're really getting cash flow. You can either buy more or buy higher priced ones, because it just starts building on itself. So he was going to buy a new property every 4 years. We looked at our program, and using the same reality that he's in now, he's going to buy a new property every 2 years, because the program is going to optimize the paying back of those mortgages, right? When he kept buying a new one. And not only that, you could put that in the future. There's a future forecasting capability. You can, what if I want to go on vacation? What if I want to buy a new car? What if I want to buy a new rental property? And so you immediately get feedback, like a GPS. Think about a GPS.
Right.
You're driving from Dallas to Austin, and it says, well, I'll be there in 4 more hours, but what if I want to take this exit and go to that restaurant I've been thinking about? That's going to take us another hour. The GPS is going to recalculate,
right,
and still get you there as fast as possible, comprehending the detour you're going to take. So you can decide, do I want to take the detour? So you have information there to make a better decision. If timing is a big deal, you may not be able to go to that restaurant, but at least you'll know the driving time.
So you sit down with the program, and you're able to tell it what your goals are.
Yep.
And then it takes into account all your income, your expenses, your debts, and really, I mean, I can see where it's also going to be able to keep up with inflation, because you just make an adjustment on your, it's not like one time you sit down with it.
That's right.
You constantly adjust it, right?
100%. 100%. Yeah, if your phone bill goes up, you just tweak the phone bill, and everything flows through. Let's tell you another quick story. So this is simple. This is simple, everyday story. This could happen. This happens every day. So this guy had a daughter that went off to college, and he was paying $150 for his phone bill. And that's based on how many minutes you have and all that, right? So he said, boy, he went online and he said, if I go down to the next lower plan, it's only $100 a month. Now, again, we advertise you don't have to change your budget, but if you do change your budget, this program will tell you what the impact is going to be right away. So you can
That's really
decide,
cool.
should I do that? So this guy said, boy, it's only $100. So he said, what if I did that? He hadn't called Verizon yet. He plugged in his phone bill going from 100, some kind of going the opposite of inflation. I mean, think about inflation would be the same concept, but more expensive. He went from $150 to $100 on his phone bill, and everything recalculated like a GPS. And it said, oh, it cut 5 months of debt. He went from like 11 years to 10 and a half, something like that.
With
I
that
mean, that's
$50
big.
a month.
With that $50 a month.
Yeah.
And that's every day. You know, you could go like, do I need this Netflix subscription? You know, am I using the Netflix? Or, you know, another guy, my senior partner, drinks a hell of a lot of coffee. He and his wife, they go to Starbucks. Have you heard that? I don't know if I told you this. They drink a lot of Starbucks. And, you know, if they go multiple times a day, they're not getting the small one, right? They're getting the Macho Grande or whatever, which is over $5 a whack. So his wife said, you know, for your birthday, they must have been going like 3 times a day each. His wife said, you know, for your birthday, I'm going to get you this $500 coffee maker that, you know, rubs your feet and walks the dog. No, I'm kidding on that, but I mean, what coffee maker is $500? Anyway, you know, they drink a lot of coffee, so I guess they can tell, they know their coffee. Let's just say that. And the husband, who's the guy, he's like the leading expert on this program, said, oh, we can't afford that. His wife is the one who uses the program, right? He's in our company. He's a senior partner. He said, oh, we can't afford that. And she turned the computer around and said, look, if I buy you this $500 coffee maker and we cut Starbucks, she didn't eliminate it. She just cut it down to like once every 2 days. They saved 9 months of debt.
Wow.
which is like, you know, tens of thousands of dollars. Oh, well, no, maybe not. I don't know what the dollar value was, but it was a lot. 9 months of debt. Jeez.
So you can play around with different scenarios, is what you're saying.
100%. And you don't have to execute it. You can just say, what would I do? What would this look like? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Pretty powerful.
you and I played around with it a little bit, and we talked about a vacation. Remember that?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You want to kind of explain what the impact of a vacation may have on your goals?
Sure. So, I mean, who doesn't want to go on vacation? So in the scenario, there's an option to say, what is the true cost of what you're doing? It's also known as opportunity cost. Whenever you buy something, this is kind of a theoretical concept. Whenever you buy something, that's that much money you could have invested and gotten a return of. If you buy $100 pair of shoes, the opportunity cost, not counting credit cards, let's say you bought it with cash, the opportunity cost may be 110 because you could have invested that and made $10, blah, 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 blah. So it gives you the ability to see not only what you're paying, but the opportunity costs of that decision. So we ran a scenario where a family wanted to go on vacation. You can do it in the future. You know, we want to go to some exotic place in Europe for, let's say, 10 grand. And we want to, and then you can decide how you want to pay for it. So I just to show you, I put it on a credit card. So we saw that, you know, in the future, when that vacation was scheduled, that we thought was going to cost 10 grand, the opportunity cost was close to 40 grand, I think. And that's due to 3 factors. And people don't think about this. I know I didn't think about it. When I used to go on vacation, I used to say, well, just charge it and figure it out later. That's what a lot of people do, I guess. Anyway, the 3 things that make the $10,000 cost to a $40,000 cost. Number 1, the $10,000 was already in your plan to pay off the debt you already have. And when you take that off the table, that's going to cost you that interest that you would have saved on your debt if you had left that 10 grand in there to pay off debt. Furthermore, you added another debt of 10 grand. So that's more interest. And not only that, you put it on a credit card, which is like, I guess that's kind of the same, but a credit card is major league interest, right? So you're like, wow. And it doesn't stop there though. You can say, well, it's not like Robert, you can't go on vacation. It's like, Robert, are you sure you want to go on vacation? And then I showed Robert another spin on that, where what if we paid for that out of our savings account? And there's a switch you can set. And if you watch all the transactions, everything flips. And instead of paying off debt until it gets to your vacation, it makes you move all your extra money into your savings account until you get 10 grand in your savings account so you can pay for that vacation you're going to take next year. So that when you take the vacation, the 10 grand is already set up there. It prioritized that over paying off existing debt, but it gave you the money already saved up for you so you could go on vacation. And the opportunity cost of that was 14 grand. So it's still more than 10, but it's a lot better than the 40 grand if you just throw it on a credit card like most people do.
Right.
So you can play around with those type of scenarios, and it's moving your money just like a GPS. Okay.
Well,
and it's not, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say, I like that dynamic aspect of the program. A lot of people are told, they'll go to a financial planner or somebody, they'll say, put together a budget.
Yeah.
That's it. And you put together a budget, and then you make a budget maybe, and you put it in a drawer, and it gathers dust. And you're not really following that budget. It's not adjusting for inflation. It's not adjusting for changes of credit card interest rates that you may have. It doesn't make any it's not dynamic.
Yeah.
But your situation is like a dynamic budgeting tool.
Yeah. Real time. Yeah. Like if your refrigerator goes out, I don't know what a refrigerator costs, $4,000, $5,000. So that's not going to be in your budget. So you just slap in there, well, another added cost, 5 grand, and like a GPS, it'll recalculate.
Right.
And it'll probably, that's 5 grand more of expense than you had before. So it's probably going to push your debt-free date out a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. You're still going to be able to get there as fast as possible. So it reacts to that kind of stuff.
But you're aware of what's going on.
That's right.
It brings an awareness to you of what the impact is of different financial decisions you make.
Awareness and accountability. So now you gotta, and accountability is where most budgets fail, including me. But this makes accountability easy because you can see the immediate result right there,
And I can see where young people who are very computer savvy would appreciate this. It would almost be like a computer game in a way to them. They could have some fun with it. I like playing with numbers. I've always liked it. I did a lot of statistics in college and all that, but I've always enjoyed numbers a lot. But I think it would make numbers, because this is really numbers. It's math. It's really, that's what it is. But it's very sophisticated because of what it can do for you.
The background is sophisticated, yeah, but the usage isn't. That's the cool thing. That's why I like the program, is because they don't make it hard, and if it was hard, people wouldn't use it. But you nailed it on the game. You nailed it on the gamification. We guarantee a result, but people always if you follow it, people always beat it because they start to make a game out of it, and they start making better decisions than they did when we ran the analysis, on day one.
What kind of results have people had? I mean, can you share with us some
everybody's different. The guy I work for, the coffee drinker, he paid for like a $400,000 house in something like 4.5 years. But of course, his interest, everyone's income is different and all that. And now he's bought a second home, and he's forecasted a bigger home. He upsized. So he sold the first one, and now the second one's going to be paid off in another 2.5 years. I mean, my best client is on track. So full disclosure, I've been doing this for a little less than 3 years. So it hasn't been time for very many of my clients to actually get to completely debt free, but we can see their progress and we can see what they started with and we can see what they are now and how much it keeps track of how much interest you saved.
But
So
really, I mean, based on your education and experience, you are a financial expert. So it's not exactly like
you're pretty generous.
well, you're not really new to the game. You know, you have a
Yeah,
finance degree, you have an MBA, and
yeah,
you've worked for all these big companies
yeah,
in their dealing with financial matters.
yeah.
So I can see where this would appeal to you. But like you said, the gamification as you used,
It's huge.
yes,
Good observation. My biggest client is you can do this with commercial loans too, okay? Businesses. It won't work for public companies, but small private companies, it's great.
right.
So my in terms of total dollars, um, I don't have a lot of business. My 90% of my clients it's personal, but the bigger numbers are with the ones with business. I have one guy that owned like 3 big warehouses, and some little properties, like little businesses, like a strip mall type of business. And we are going to save him. It's projected, and I think we're going to beat it, but it's projected we're going to save him like 3.8 million in interest. So,
Wow.
and just follow the steps, so that's a pretty big number. On a personal level, I've got a guy who he's a financial advisor and he didn't know this stuff.
Yeah.
He's on track to save over $1.5 million, but he has he's making so much money that he tends to just overlook the details. And as a result, he's working harder, but if he could work less, and if he just paid more attention to what he's really doing with his money, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people do that. If they knew where the money was really going, they could kind of back off a little, and this would be good. And so while we've been talking, I want to go back to real estate professionals and mortgage guys. Okay, you guys are responsible for putting people into debt, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Just as a result of your process, you are providing a massive solution to people. You're doing some great things, but imagine how much better you could do if you could show people, even if you don't have them buy this program, just explain to them these kind of concepts. You would be the most trusted advisor. You imagine how much more business you'd get, because the average, I think it's safe to say, Robert, in your experience, you've been around, you know real estate a lot more than me. Most agents and mortgage guys don't talk about this, right? Or do they? I don't think they do.
I've really, when people ask, it's almost like when they talk about cars, and I'm not trying to be insulting to people. It's just people don't have time or the interest. They want to know what their payment's going to be.
Exactly. That's right. That's
They
right.
want,
So
they just want to know what the payment's going to be. And same with like a car loan,
yeah.
all kinds of loans. That's why car loans, you'll see car dealers will advertise a payment.
Yes.
They don't even tell you the price of the car anymore.
That is the voodoo math. Yes. I meant to bring that up. Yeah. I mean, nor do they tell you how long that payment's going to be.
No.
This payments are only $119 for 96 years, or whatever. I mean,
Right.
they don't tell you. You also have to pay 58,000 down, but they don't tell you any of that. Just this whole concept of leasing is mainly, it's like it's given them carte blanche to do creative math, and they can pick out something to talk about and ignore the other things that are behind the curtain. So yeah, I meant to bring that up on one of the bad things about car loans. Thank you for bringing that up.
Well, I just think that the average American, and even really some businessmen and other people, businesswomen, they'll just say, well, how does this payment fit into my overall scheme of
Yes,
things?
which is important.
It's important, but the power of paying things off early and the power of becoming debt free increases your ability so much. And if you start young, if you're in your early 20s, I mean, the biggest audience for podcasts are people in their 20s. Those are
Wow.
who listen to them more than anybody. Although I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, but if it could influence some of them to take financial control of your life, It's not like a no money down, one of these things you'll see at midnight being pushed on TV or something. It's a real program where you put your real numbers in it and you get real results, and it's like I said, dynamic is what I saw from it, what you showed me, and it was just really awesome how you can just it's a living budget instead of
It's a living, breathing organism that's like on your team. It's like having 100 accountants in your back office.
right.
If I may throw a couple more things,
Sure.
the results are guaranteed, and I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Ernst & Young. I know you have. Ernst & Young is like the biggest accounting firm in the world. And I think it's safe to say that every Fortune 500 company, or most of them, have Ernst & Young as their auditor, as the company that kind of make sure that the company's on the up and up in terms of reporting earnings and stuff like that, and stock prices and all that. Ernst & Young is like the policeman. And if you know anybody who's an accountant, and magnify this by 1,000% when you look at a company of accountants that's this size, they're very conservative. Their entire business is based on credibility. They can't afford to make a mistake. And that's why they get hired, is to make sure you don't make a mistake, because they're doing all the checking. So they don't put their name on something unless 98 accountants have checked the math. I'm exaggerating there, but so Ernst & Young awarded this company behind this program with Entrepreneur of the Year award in 2008, which is a big deal. You've never heard of our company. The company's called United Financial Freedom. You've never heard of the program. It's called the Money Max account, but most of you have heard of Ernst & Young. They wouldn't give us an award, the same award that they gave to Microsoft, eBay, Starbucks, and Apple a long time ago when those were all small companies. They gave it to our company because this program is disruptive, it's a game changer, and it works. And 98 accountants had checked the math. They can't afford to be, it's not like they're endorsing it, but they gave us an award, okay? And that's a big deal. I know that because Ernst & Young was in my underwear for 35 years as my corporate accountant. And, that's just the way they operate. So that's a big deal. If anyone's worried about, I've never heard of these guys. Well, this is not Dave Ramsey. You don't have to sell your car and ride a bicycle. You don't have to live on beans and rice. You can do this with whatever you have going on, and it's just using leftover money and resources that aren't being used, and it's putting everything you got to get on your behalf to use the same power that banks have in the background.
And really, you're not talking about even generating extra dollars. You're using the same.
That's right.
You're using the same dollars coming in, right?
That's right.
You're not.
But like you say, it's dynamic. So if you get a bonus or a raise, you change that and everything recalculates, and it's going to speed it up. If you go the other way, if you're a commission person, it works really good because commission people have variable.
Oh, I see. True.
Right. Variable earnings, and it's able to accommodate that. If you're trying to budget as a commission person, it's kind of tough, because you never know what you're going to make, and you can estimate, but by the end of the first month, you're off,
Oh, yeah.
So this thing accommodates that, and
well, the other thing is that I would notice about it is you are able to put in these things and it's dynamic, but I would play around with Microsoft Excel. I mean, just sort of play around with it, but to try, for a person to try to put one of these together on a Microsoft Excel, it would be impossible. Some people may think, oh, I can put together a budget on Excel. It's not. It's what you showed me and what it can do for you is so much more powerful than a spreadsheet.
I'm a big spreadsheet fan. Yes, you're exactly right. Spreadsheets are getting pretty powerful, but yeah, you can't, everything reacts to everything else.
Right.
Everything is interconnected, and it's hard to replicate that. I'll tell you another story. I didn't tell you this before. They actually hired math PhDs and people from NASA when they designed the program. And according to, this is third person or third whatever, The same guy who bought the coffee maker was telling me that they had a NASA engineer, one of the senior guys, right? And he looked at this program. He said, "Oh, I can do that on a spreadsheet." He said, "Okay." And the guy took like 6 months. This is a NASA guy. And he had a spreadsheet with like 10 tabs, if you know what Excel is,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
everything was connected and all that. And he says,
Uh,
"Look, I think I got it, but it's going to be impossible to maintain this. Screw this. I'm going to buy the program." So, so the guy, that's how engineers, he's like, I got to prove that I can do it, but
right.
it was impossible to execute. He replicated it, but it was not keeping it updated would have been tough, because if you miss one thing, everything's going to be off. This thing is all
Right.
simplified right in front of you, our program. So I think that's a pretty funny story. So
Well,
yeah,
you
he's
have
a
to,
happy client.
well, and then you also have to feed data to all those tabs.
That's right.
They don't feed themselves a lot of times, you have to
That's right.
feed it in different tabs. And
Yeah.
so that that's where this would be good. So when you talked about your clients about this, do you have young clients and older clients, and how do you talk to them differently about the program?
Great question. So I think it's sort of like a demographic, like who are the top people that this is appropriate for. So in general, anyone who has debt should look at this, I would say, but that's kind of too generic because it's like 90% of us have debt. Then I peel down one more level and say anybody that has a 30-year mortgage, and the newer it is, the more effective this is, because they're at the beginning when all that interest is there, right? There's a lot of meat on the bone on a mortgage. It's my experience that there's a lot of money on the table when you have a new mortgage. In terms of ages, my number two demographic, my number one demographic is what you just said, so I'm gonna leave that. But my number two demographic is people my age and that are like a little bit younger than me, people in their 50s that are getting ready to retire, and 60s, that don't want to be paying debt while they're retired. They're winding down. The last thing, a lot of people don't have a lot of retirement money saved, and they're nervous. We're all nervous. It's hard to know how much money you really need with inflation and all the uncertainty in the stock market. You could lose half your savings, in 2022. A lot of people lost quite a bit of their savings. So that is my number two demographic. How can we get you out of debt? Because I'm that demographic, although I'm a little bit older. But my number one demographic are young people, because this program is for life. And so you can squeeze a lot more out of it over the course of your life. It's not just the debt you have now. As you've mentioned many times, you can do scenarios for your future.
Right.
So a lot of young people, they could have student debt. That's common. They want to buy a home, but they can't. They have their first home. They got married. They have a kid. So there's expenses with that and blah, blah, blah. But this is the best time to get the program if they can. They should at least look at it. We do an
Yes.
analysis for everybody. We should at least run an analysis to see what it can do, and you can decide then. Don't say, "Oh, that's not for me," without looking at what this can do. Okay,
Right.
and maybe you don't need to buy it. That's okay, but at least know what's possible. And for the young people, they're going to buy another car. They're going to probably buy another home. They might have more kids. They're going to have kids that may have to go to college, that want to go to college. You know, their debt's not going to go away. This is a great way to manage debt and put it on your side, so to speak. So it's something that, here's the best testimonial I ever got, and then I know you had something to say. Murray, the thing I like about you, this is from a woman my age, single woman who was very stressed out when I met her. And she said, the thing I like about this program is I don't have to think about debt anymore. Just that.
Yeah.
Now I have it's like when you're driving from New York to LA, I don't have to worry about, buying a bunch of maps. I'll just follow this GPS.
Right.
And I know I'm going to
That's
get there
true.
when it says. And so now
Right.
I can think about spending time with my grandkids and, travel and all that, because I don't have to worry about debt. That was a very powerful feedback, I got from somebody. So
Well, the thing is, I appreciate some of these people that say, don't ever get in debt, don't do this. I mean, I appreciate what they're saying to people on a certain level, but debt can be a wonderful tool to
yes,
achieve wealth and to achieve the things you want to achieve in life. But like you say, it can be a beast or it can be a friend. And this, I think, will help it become more of a friend. And before I forget, I want to just say I have no financial interest in you or this program or anything. I was just very impressed about how it flowed, how it worked when you showed it to me, and I'm glad you did, because had I not spent that hour with you going through it, I would have just had not as well of an understanding of it. So tell me this, Murray, in conclusion, how can people contact you about if they need you to help them about managing and their life and and their finances?
so thanks for the kind words, and I'm really glad we did talk. And again, whether they get this program or not, just be aware of some of these concepts of debt, okay? And if you're a consumer, it's unfortunate we live in a debt society. And like you say, debt is not bad. There's a lot of things that debt does for us. And I know there's going to be somebody on this call that says, screw you guys. I know that I can use debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt.
Right.
And, there's some gray in the middle, but generally,
Yeah.
generally defined by my definition, a good debt is something that is making you money, or growing assets, like debt for investments, and when you can borrow less than what but understand the math of what you're really paying. Okay, just that's my lesson to you. So there is
Right.
good debt, but it's a double-edged sword if you're not using it right.
Right.
So I would recommend that we at least have a conversation if you're mildly interested, or if you are a real estate professional, you'd like to see how this could help you out with your clients, and really, it's a win-win for you and your clients. We should at least run your numbers and see what this can do. It's a free thing. You get no risk. The way to get a hold of me is to go to my website, debtbuster.me, all one word, debt, DEBT, Buster, BUSTER, all one word, .me. And that'll take you to a site. You could download a free report. It's called the 5 banking, I can't even think of the name of it now. The 5 banking principles that could save your life. So it talks about some of the things banks do and how you can take advantage of those. And then my contact information is all in there. Once you get to that site, you can email me, you can call me. You already gave out my, I'll give you my email address again, Murray, Murray, at boostedprofits.com, all one word, BOOSTED PROFITS.com. Shoot me an email, get on my calendar. We'll send you some more videos that explain,
All
what it
right.
looks like and how it works. And then we'll run an analysis if you want to do that. But at least at a high level, understand some of this stuff on debt. I had a mortgage guy, a woman that I was showing this to, really nice person. And I won't tell you your name, but she's been doing mortgages for 20 years and she didn't know what you actually pay on a mortgage. And when I showed her the amortization, she just never knew that. And I don't, it's a little scary, but overall, I know she did her clients well. And
Well, how many people really analyze car loans or any credit
yeah,
cards? I mean, people just don't analyze all this, and this program does, and it does.
yeah,
You just have to plug in the data, and then it starts running for you. That's what
yep,
I liked about it.
yep,
So,
yep. So,
well, thank you for being our guest today, Murray. It's been great, and nice to see you, and we'll hope to have you on again in the future.
I hope so. But then my pleasure. You are a breath of fresh air, and I hope somebody got something out of this. I've enjoyed it, and please keep in touch. Anybody, feel free to contact me. I'm also big on LinkedIn. That's really my
Yes.
bread and butter.
That's how we
I,
met, actually.
That's how we met. So look for me on LinkedIn. Look up Debt Buster, all one word. And there's only one Murray Beaulieu. The last name is hard to spell, so I don't usually tell people that. But I'm on LinkedIn. I will take a connection request and let you become part of my network, and I would be grateful for that. And just look up Debt Buster, and you should be able to find me.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Murray, and you have a good evening.
Awesome. You too, Robert.
Okay. Bye-bye.
We'll see you.